The Director of National Intelligence oversees the budgets and priorities of 18 separate federal spy agencies. For a brief period, that responsibility belonged to Tulsi Gabbard. Her exit from the role followed a specific public timeline. In June 2026, she announced she was leaving public life to care for her husband, who is battling a rare bone cancer. But on her final day in office, Gabbard triggered a massive declassification of sensitive files. She claims this dossier proves the U.S. government was involved in a multi-layered cover-up involving global biolabs and the origins of COVID-19. To understand these allegations, we have to look inside the documents themselves and examine whether these disclosures were an act of transparency or a reaction to internal pressure. The first major file in the dossier focuses on global biodefense. Gabbard alleges that the U.S. government provides funding for a network of over 120 biological laboratories across more than 30 countries. The documents point to specific financial records in Ukraine. They detail millions in funding flowing into local research centers, specifically $3.4 million to an anti-plague institute in Odessa and another $2.1 million to a veterinary medicine facility. The dossier highlights warnings from intelligence analysts. They cautioned that sensitive pathogens in these Ukrainian labs were at risk of falling into Russian hands during the invasion, a risk Gabbard says was deliberately kept from the public. Scientific critics and policy experts have pushed back on this framing. They argue these facilities are part of a standard international network designed to monitor agricultural diseases and prevent natural outbreaks, not to develop weapons. Critics argue that by framing standard research as a secret threat, Gabbard provided internal U.S. intelligence to support the exact narrative Russia used to justify its military actions. The second part of the release focuses on Dr. Anthony Fauci. The documents claim he directed U.S. taxpayer money to the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. Gabbard claims this money was used for gain-of-function research, where viruses are deliberately modified to become more infectious. She alleges that Fauci used the intelligence community to suppress the theory that COVID-19 leaked from that lab. This leads to a specific legal charge. Gabbard claims these declassified papers prove Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when he denied having direct contact with intelligence agencies about the virus's origins. There is a documented split within U.S. intelligence.
Agencies like the SDI and the Department of Energy lean toward a lab accident, citing Wuhan's history of studying bat coronaviruses at relatively low biosafety levels. However, a majority of virologists still favor a natural origin. They point to data showing early cases clustered around the Huanan seafood market, where animals were sold that could have carried the virus to humans. The dossier enters a space where definitive proof is still missing. By framing this lack of scientific consensus as a malicious cover-up, it transforms a technical debate into a criminal allegation. The timing of these releases coincided with a period of significant pressure within the administration. Gabbard had publicly broken ranks with the White House on Iran. She testified to Congress that the Iranian nuclear program had already been neutralized, a claim that directly contradicted the president's own aggressive intelligence assessments. She also faced pushback from career intelligence officials. Critics questioned her lack of background in the field and pointed to her presence at an FBI raid in Georgia as evidence that she was using the DNI role for political visibility. By the time the dossier was released, her successor had already been named. The president had tapped Bill Poulate to take over the agency, meaning Gabbard was on the verge of being replaced regardless of her personal situation. Political analysts suggest the declassification was a way for Gabbard to seize control of her departure. By positioning herself as a whistleblower exposing the system, she maintains her standing with a specific voter base. The move allows her to pivot from a sidelined official to a public figure fighting for transparency. As the lines between scientific research, secret intelligence gathering, and political survival continue to overlap, the baseline for what the public accepts as a classified truth becomes harder to find.